And Sarah, I want you to stick around now. Let's carry on this conversation. Post-pandemic, what will the office of the future look like? You've started thinking about this, so what do you think we're going to be looking at post-pandemic?
Yeah, a lot of people are asking me about this these days. So I'm happy/sad, depending on how you feel about it, to report that remote work is here to stay for a lot of us. You know, as you were saying, some people really love it. Some people are struggling with it, and I find that even the people who do mostly like it, there are a few little things they're struggling with. So for example, it's hard to feel like you're connected. So for some people, morale has gone down a little bit. A lot of people are saying that they feel like they always have to be on when they're at home. So boundaries has been a bit of an issue for some people, even people who like their jobs. You know, we started in this pandemic with a lot of office workers having to work from home, but you've probably heard the phrase that people are using now is they say they feel like they're living at work. So as we move forward, setting some boundaries and finding ways to not be available all the time for work is going to be important for people working from home. What I'm thinking we'll probably see quite soon, and in fact some organizations have already done this, is a lot of places are moving to staggered office days where you're going to be going into the office maybe 1 to 2 days a week. It's not going to be a full-time 5 days a week kind of thing, but you'll be going into the office to touch base, maybe to have the meetings and to get that little bit of connection, and then the rest of the week you're likely to see a lot of people still working remotely from home.
And I think that would almost be the perfect scenario. Sometimes just speaking to a human, not over a computer, you can get a lot of issues solved faster, I feel. So if you had that ability to not do the commute every day, but still go in and get some human connection a couple of days a week, it doesn't sound that bad. Now let's think about what the office is going to look like. It's probably going to function a little bit different when we're there. So what do you think we might be able to expect, Sarah?
We are going to see more of what's called hot desking. And if you're not familiar with what hot desking is, that's where there's various workstations around the office and different people use those workstations on different days. So if you're only going in 1 or 2 days a week, that means you no longer have your own cubicle or office. You're sort of signing up for a place for that 1 or 2 days that you go in every week. And there are a few reasons companies are moving to this. This is already quite popular in the startup world, in fact, even pre-pandemic. The reason organizations will be probably doing more of this post-pandemic is because it's way easier to clean when people's stuff isn't in the office, when you don't have file cabinets and like tchotchkes everywhere and like pictures hanging everywhere, where you go into the office 1 day a week and you have to take all of your stuff home with you after. It's much easier for places to clean. You can also space out more because there's not everybody in the office every day. Truthfully, I think one of the main incentives for companies to do this too is a lot of companies are cash strapped and just trying to survive financially, and so they can have smaller spaces with fewer people in them with way lower overhead cost if they have this hot desking option.
Sarah, for those of us who love their paper, you're saying the new normal may be a little bit difficult for us.
It's going to be a bit tricky for people who love their papers and their things and they love having a home base for their work, because they're not really going to feel like they have a home at work anymore. And so that's going to be a big adjustment for people if you like having a settled space of your own.
Yeah, I could see that kind of being hard for me to wrap my head around. All of my stuff is everywhere at work, so that would make it feel a little bit less personal. What's the office going to look like? Is it going to look like going to the grocery store now and having plexiglass? What do you think?
You're not that far off. A lot of people are talking about what they call the sneeze guard effect, and so you probably will see more plexiglass in places where you haven't seen it. For example, if you're someone who works in like a cubicle scenario, some organizations will want to provide, you know, more, I guess, protection around your personal space. So that's an example of like a physical adaptation that companies are doing. Other things they might be doing physically is touchless elevators, where you just have like a little pass card that you scan and it brings you to the right floor. But I think we're also going to see even more procedural adaptations for safety at work. And that means things like signage signage for various places that you'll be walking around and allowed to walk. That's tricky because it puts the onus on you as the employees to follow the rules, and not all of your colleagues are going to do that. I have a friend who had to put a string behind her cubicle to make sure that people didn't get too close. So that's going to be a tricky adjustment as well.
I think you're right. Sarah, thank you so much for giving a sense of what the new normal might look like if we do start going back to the office. It's really good information.